Hey everyone, welcome back to Papa's Workshop. Well, today I want to be able to show you how to be able to draw pictures and letters on the CNC machine. I have designed these probably the most simple but yet most effective pen holder for a CNC machine that I have ever seen. Now, over the years, I've used a number of different types, and most of them just strap on somehow. I've even used zip ties to be able to hold the pens right directly to the router. None of those things really work that well. But today, I want to show you how I designed this one. And this particular pen holder works absolutely fantastic. It's a very simple design, and it doesn't clutter up your CNC machine. It's very easy to be able to use. To design this pen holder, I'm actually using a free software called Tinkercad. Now, this software is very easy to be able to learn. It's free, and it can make some fantastic projects for you. Now, just a couple of weeks ago, I did a video where I said you really need to have a 3D printer in your workshop. Well, here's proof. I took an idea that I had, designed it in the Tinkercad, printed it out on the 3D printer, and now I have a tool that you can't buy in the store, but it's going to work fantastic on the CNC machine. To find the Tinkercad software, just go to the Google search, type in Tinkercad, and you'll find it. Now, I already have an account set up, and again, it's a free account. And this is the little pen holder that I had designed. Now, this software will save all the different projects that you have used in the past. This pen holder is actually a very, very simple design. It really only consists of two parts. Now, this part right here is really the only measurements that you really need to be able to have. The diameter of the spindle on the Fox alien machine is 52 millimeters. So that is the size that I made that. So it's 52 millimeters for the diameter. And then as far as the height, I measured that mount, and that mount is 35 millimeters. Now, that's really the only things that you need. With those two measurements in mind, let's go over here and look at the basic shapes, and I'm going to drag this cylinder into the work plane. At this point, all I need to do is enter in those measurements. So I'll click on this, put in the 52 millimeters. On the x-axis, same thing on the y-axis, put in the 52 millimeters. And then on the height, on the z-axis, I'll put in the 35 millimeters. And your basic shape is done. Just that easy. If you look close at this cylinder, you're going to see little small segments. Now, there's actually straight lines, and there's actually 20 of them to create that circle. But you don't want that. You want to be able to smooth that out. Just by sliding this bar up to the maximum of 64, you now smooth out those edges, and it makes for a nice round cylinder. The next step is to add the hole into the center. Let me get my work plane organized a little bit. I'm going to slide these two components out of the way. We're going to slide this over. The next step is to make this hole. To be able to do that, I'm going to go back to the basic shapes and select this item right there. Now, this actually is a hole. As far as the size of this, I want to make this 32 millimeters. Now, you can make it pretty much anything that you want, but 32 millimeters is what I had settled on. As far as the height, I'm going to make the height at 35 millimeters. You can even make this 36 millimeters. It's perfectly fine. It really doesn't matter. So we have the 36 millimeters, and the cylinder hole is completed. Don't forget, you still have those little small sides on there. So you want to take that sliding bar, move it up to the 64, so that you actually have a perfectly round cylinder that creates this hole. With the hole completed now, all I want to do is just take it and slide it over into the cylinder that we had made. Doesn't have to be perfectly centered at this point. Highlight both of these components, and you have this little icon up top, which is the alignment. And you can see these little buttons pop up, and all you need to do is click on the center button on the X and the Y axis, and that cylinder will move right over into the center of this space. So now all that's left is to click on this icon, group it together, and the first component is completed. I hope you can see just how easy it is to be able to use the Tinkercad. Literally, when you first open up this software and start using it, it'll probably take you about 10 or 15 minutes to be able to see how to make these various components. It's time now to move on to make the other components, and we're going to do this in two separate parts. I'm going to start out by pulling the cylinder into the work plate again, and we're going to make this little small bottom plate. Now, as far as the sizes of this, again, you can make it any size that you want. I chose to make this on the x-axis at the 52 millimeters. That's the dimension of the original base. As far as the y-axis, I'm going to make it 31 millimeters because that's going to be the diameter of this tall vertical cylinder. Now you can make this completely round. It's strictly up to you. But those are the dimensions that I use, 52 millimeters and 31 millimeters. As far as the height, I chose to go with 5 millimeters. And again, this can vary whatever you choose to do. But basically at this time, I have the shape that I'm looking for, and that's the exact same shape that I have here on this base. The next component is we can go ahead and add these holes. Now these holes I decided to make at 4 millimeters, and I'm just going to grab that same hole from the basic shape menu, and I'm going to set this up at the 4 millimeters on the X and Y axis. And one change I do want to make from the original prototype is to change this hole size to a 5 millimeter diameter. So that's just that easy. Then change the height. I still need this at 5 millimeters as well. So I'll key in the 5 millimeters, hit enter, and now my hole is completed. I need 2 of them, so I need to copy them. So up top left, you can see duplicate and repeat. So you can click on that, or you can use Control D and you can duplicate your hole. So now I have 2 of them. I can slide over and just drop right into the position. So there's the 2 holes. Now then, are they exactly where they need to be? Nah, probably not. But guess what? You have another tool over here that you can use right up here, and it's the ruler tool. You can slide this down, put it in here, and now you can actually measure and put these holes exactly where you want them. You can take this ruler and you can move it around and get it aligned exactly the way that you want it. Once you have it in place, the next step, you just click on the hole and you can actually see the dimensions right here. You'll see the diameter of the hole and the measurement from the edge of that ruler over to the edge, not the center of your hole. Keep that in mind. This is a mistake that I had made when I designed and put together this demonstration. The thickness of this wall is 10 millimeters. I want that hole at the 5 millimeter point. However, you got to be able to subtract the distance from the edge of that hole, not the center. So the error that I made is putting that at the 5 millimeters. I really need to subtract 2.5 millimeters off of that and then enter that number. So the correct measurement actually would be 2.5 millimeters, and that would be from the outer edge to the outer edge of the hole. And then repeat that process for the other side and set up the other hole. So click on that second hole, you'll see the measurements displayed, and then with just a little bit of math, put that hole exactly where you want it. Again, you're measuring to the edge, not the center of the hole. With that completed, you completed the alignment of the holes on the x-axis. The next step, of course, is to align the holes on the y-axis, and that's very easy to be able to do. All you need to be able to do is highlight the whole thing, all 3 components, the 2 holes and the base itself, and then you'll see the alignment tools right up there at the top. Click on that and you can see the buttons. You see that light gray area? That is already centered, and that was strictly a coincidence, but had that been a black solid dot, then you would click on it and it would center the holes. So the holes now are aligned on the x-axis as well as the y-axis. The next step is to make the tall cylinder. Now this cylinder is going to be done exactly the same way, so I'm going to skip through this really fast. But as far as the height, I want to make this 105 millimeters, and then as far as the diameter, I will make this 31 millimeters. The reason for the 31 millimeters is, don't forget, the base that we just created a moment ago was 32 millimeter hole in that center. I need to have this slightly smaller, and 1 millimeter difference proved to be a perfect size. With the basic cylinder done, you're going to do the same thing on the hole that we need to have in the center. Again, the hole is going to be 105 millimeters. As far as the diameter, on the original prototype, I made the hole at 12 millimeters. If I was making this again, I would go ahead and move this to 13 millimeters. With that done, take the hole, slide it into the center of the tall cylinder. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to highlight both of these components and use our centering tool to be able to center that hole directly into the center of our cylinder. And you can see the little black dots. Click on it on the X and the Y axis, and you've got it perfectly centered. Last step, of course, is to highlight both of the components, group them with this little icon right here, and now that is completed. If you want to rotate this around so you can see that the hole does go all the way through, well, it's easy to do that. You can rotate it around and see everything. It's time to put these two parts together, but the first thing is I need to group the holes to that base. Once that is done, then I can take this cylinder and slide it over onto that base and then do the same thing. We're going to highlight both of these components, come up to the top and select the alignment tool. And you can see we need to click on this on the y-axis and the x-axis, and that slides it over where it's perfectly centered. Now that that's completed, your component is done. And yes, you do need to be able to group everything together and then add the holes. I've already shown you how to add the holes, so I'm not going to repeat that and waste your time. Once you're happy with your design, come up to the top right, click on the export, and you want to save this as an STL file. Put this onto your computer and you're ready to take it over to your software for your 3D printer. I use the Cura software, but there's many great software packages out there for your 3D printers. Once you open up the file, you bring that into the Cura software, check your different settings, and then save it, and you're ready to load it into your 3D printer. And I have a number of videos showing you exactly how to do that. But once it's completely printed, you can take it off the printer and you're ready to be able to assemble this. Now this thin edge, as you see on the bottom, is actually called the brim, and that's something I should have changed in the setting. I really don't like the brim. But you can see how these two components will slide together and they move very nice with very little play. And that's exactly what you want. So I'm very happy with this basic design. Now so far, everything is working out real well on this simple design. The next thing I need to be able to do is find some springs that will go right in this area so the pen will be able to move up and down. Doesn't need to move up and down very much, but I do need to have it spring loaded. I'm going to look for some old pins and see if the springs there will work. I found two pins that I think will work. I'm going to take the springs out of these, and I think that spring will work just fine. So these springs will sit right in here, and I need to be able to have a screw that will go into the bottom up into this area, and that looks like about a 6/32 screw. And I found these two screws, and yeah, that'll slip in there just perfect and be able to move up and down. The next thing I want to be able to do is take and have these where I can screw these in. That'll work just great. To be able to get the threads in here, yes, I did tap that. I did use this one right here, which is the 32 inches, or the 32 threads per inch. That worked out real well to be able to do that. I could have probably done the same thing just by taking the screw and just screwing it into these holes, and that would take care of it. Either way will work. So I'm going to slip these in. Slip that in there. I just found just a couple little washers. I'm going to go ahead and drop these washers on there. I'm not sure if they are needed or not, but I'm going to put it on. Now that one is round. This other one that I found was square. I don't think it really matters. And not even sure if it's really needed, but we're going to give it, in fact, let's try one without. So I have one little washer on here. We're going to use the other one without the washer, and let's see if it makes a difference. I'm going to put the spring on. We'll put this spring on. We'll slide this on. And we'll screw that in. And let's get this one started. So that works out real well. All right. We can slip a pin in here. And that fits in there just perfect. If I use a pin such as this that has the fine point on it, well, that will just slide in there, but it'll be loose. That's why I put 2 holes in here. And I have 2 of the 8/32. So I can screw that in. That's going to do real well. So that holds the pin. I do want to screw this one tight too. Now this screw is 1 1/4 inches long. Certainly it doesn't need to be 1 1/4 inches long. But now that is held tight and that's not going to move. So this I think is going to work real well. Let's go over to the CNC machine and put this on and see how it works. Now, as far as having this washer in here versus no washer, I actually don't think it makes any difference at all. So that's going to work out, I think, really well. Now, this hole was actually designed to be a 12 millimeter hole, and this actually is a little bit larger. So I did have to take the drill and drill this out just under the 1/2 inch to be able to make it where this pin would be able to slip in. So that slips in nice and easy, and I could just tighten that down just a little bit to secure it. Now this on the other end, I don't know if you can see down in there or not, but this is too long to be able to catch the top of the pin. But this is still real stable with the one. And with that, you're not going to need to move this, but just a tiny little bit. So this actually could be shorter. It does not need to be this long. So I could easily cut off about 3/4 inch and be just fine. So that's going to take some more experimenting to see how all of that's going to play out. But this is the pen holder that I think is going to work out real well. Now for the exciting part. I want to be able to use this pen holder. The first step, let's get the spindle out of the way. I can loosen the 2 screws. I'm going to take out the spindle. We're going to remove the 2 wires that provide the power to the spindle, and I'll set those wires out of the way. As far as the spindle, I'm going to take the spindle and just slip it into the drawer in the workbench itself, and then I'm going to take my brand new pen holder and we're going to slide it into this mount. I need to open this up just a little bit more by loosening the screws, just a little bit more of room for this to slide in. And there you go, a perfect fit. The diameter is perfect, the height of this is perfect. So I'm going to tighten the screws back, and that's all it takes to be able to mount this new pen holder. For this fine point Sharpie, I don't need the top screw, but I'm still going to put this screw in so I don't lose it. And that way I'll have it whenever I do need it when I change to a different pen. To create a nice flat surface to be able to draw on, I'm just using a piece of foam board. And nothing fancy at all. You could use just about any flat material that you want. As to secure it, all I'm going to do is just use some blue tape to be able to hold it down, and I'll be ready to start drawing. I grabbed a piece of scrap cardboard that I had just laying around, but this is a great example for one of the things that you can do with this. If you have a business where you're shipping different items in boxes, well, you can actually print your logo on the box and maybe save some money for printing costs, because this really does not take a lot of time to be able to do. Now this particular file of my logo I already had saved in the computer, so it was a matter of just opening the file and setting up the toolpath and printing this. On this first demonstration, I'm doing it where I'm printing just the outline. Now as far as the VCarve Pro that I'm using, I just use the profile toolpath to be able to create this, and I'm going to show you that next. Now for the fun of it, I'm going to take this same exact logo and let's see if we can do a fill. Now one of the things that you can do is use the pocket toolpath. You can also use the quick engraving toolpath, and either one would work. So this would be the quick engraving toolpath, and this would be the pocket toolpath. And I think that I'm going to just play with this one to begin with. I put the 16th bit back in there, and again we're going to change this down to the 1 pass. Got the pass set, hit OK, and let's calculate that and see how it works. So that actually looks a whole lot better. So let's actually reset this. We'll hit the preview. It misses a couple little areas, but that actually may work. Let's take a look and see how that works. All right, so at this point, I'm going to go ahead and save this. We're going to select this toolpath right there. And this is the Sharpie logo fill. That's what we want to be able to do. So we'll save this. And we're going to put it over into the same drive right there. So that will work. And now let's go over and see what it looks like when we print this out. So let me minimize this. We'll bring up the Open Build software. At this point, we're going to open this up. We're going to load in the G code for the fill, and we'll hit open. And that should be the project. So now we're ready to run the job. All I need to do is hit the run job. I'm going to move the camera over and we're going to take a look at it. After resetting my camera so that you can see this, I just hit that run job and it's going to go through this process. And you can see by this first letter, it's looking really good. So this gives you an option of being able to do the lettering as a fill or as the line art. Now if you zoom in and we take a look at the pen holder itself, you can see exactly how it's working, and you can see that the pen is being able to move up and down with those springs that provides the tension onto the cardboard, and that is working absolutely perfect. This is exactly what I was hoping for it to be able to do. So again, a very, very simple design to be able to work perfectly in this Fox Alien XE Pro 8040. And this is a perfect platform to be able to do these type of projects. And this pen holder as an attachment to this Fox Alien CNC machine is absolutely perfect. This is actually better than what I had hoped for. I just did a quick Google search and put the dog line drawing black and white, and I think I'm just going to click this one. And this is a royal free vector, so I'm just going to copy this, and then we're going to minimize this and go back into the Vectrix software. Okay, I'm back at the Vectrix software, and all I'm going to do is type in new. I really don't care about saving this file, so I'm just going to hit no, and that'll give me a clean page again. Now as far as these settings, these are fine. I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to hit OK. Now since I copied the file, all I need to be able to do is click on this and hit paste, and that brings that image directly into the software. The next step is to come up to this icon right here, and that is the trace bitmap. Now there's a number of settings that you can do here, but I'm just going to leave them all alone and hit apply, and the trace bitmap will take place. Now I have that completed. The next step is I want to be able to separate these two to go back to the original drawing as well as the vectors. So now you can see each of the images. The one on the right is the original image, and the one on the left is what the trace bitmap did. I'll slide this original image out of the way, and now I have just the vectors to be able to work with. So I'll slide that back over into the center, and the first thing that I want to do is to be able to ungroup this and get rid of some of this unnecessary lines. And with it ungrouped, I can highlight just the one that I want and be able to cut it. So I can get rid of that bottom, and there's another little image right there. I want to cut that too. Same thing with this bottom line, just highlight it and cut it. And that leaves me a nice clean image to be able to work with. At this point, I want to take the original image and delete that. We don't need it anymore. And I'm going to take my new image now. I want to be able to highlight everything and be able to group it together. And at this point, I'm ready to go over to the toolpath menu. And again, I'm going to select the pocket toolpath, and that will bring me up to the settings. Now this time, I think instead of going to 0.04, I think I'm going to go with 0.02. I'm going to use the same bit, and I'm going to do the one pass, and I'm going to leave everything else the same. And we're going to save this. At this point, I'm going to do the same thing. Come with the G code, open the G code, look for my Sharpie dog right there, and we'll hit open. And there's my dog. So all I need to do is just come over here and hit run job. From a concept in Google search to the actual completed drawing literally did not take long at all. And I've got a dog now on this cardboard. Nicely drawn. I love it. I absolutely love the potential of being able to do the drawings with the CNC machine. Now the Fox Alien is a perfect machine to be able to set up like this and do the drawings. In fact, I think what I'm going to do is leave this whiteboard right here on the wasteboard so that I can do some other drawings. Now what's nice about this, we picked this image out of Google, and it took just a moment to bring into the VCard Pro, went through the bitmap, traced it, set it up, and was ready to carve in literally less than 10 minutes. And I think the result is good. Now, can it be tweaked and can we improve? Well, sure. But even the words down here on my logo turned out really nice without really doing any fine tuning. So this is a real easy way to be able to do the drawings. Now, can you do it in color? Absolutely. You can literally do any drawing that you wish to do and just set each color up on a separate layer. And by doing that, you'll be able to select a color that you need, put in the appropriate pen, Z the machine, and continue to be able to do the project. Now, one of the things that I really like about the possibilities of doing this is being able to do the holiday different graphics and be able to, literally, you could create yard signs with this by being able to pick out, let's say, something for Thanksgiving, do it in multiple colors, then you could actually connect the CNC machine back with the spindle and cut it out. You would already have the drawing on your material. Let's say you're using a 1/2-inch piece of plywood to do your yard art. You could do that. And your drawing would be on the plywood, and then you could cut it out using a profile toolpath and cut it out with the CNC machine. So literally, the options for being able to combine the CNC with the cutting ability and with the drawing ability really makes this machine very, very versatile. Now, I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you're able to learn something from it. Because this is a little bit longer video, but I think it was important to be able to cover all aspects of being able to do these drawings with the CNC machine. And if you like this video and you'd like to see more content like this, by all means, give me a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button down on this side. And by the way, leave me a comment and let me know what type of project that you would like to see, perhaps on some line drawings or maybe something else. And if you want to see some yard art done as I had just described, let me know that also down in the comments. It's getting to be that time of the year and the yard art becomes real popular. So until next time, guys, I look forward to seeing each and every one of you in the next video. So now, bye-bye, everyone.